So, lads, today we're going to be talking about one of the most popular players on the Indiana Fever team, Temi Fagbenle. One of the players that probably her game suits Caitlin Clark the most, and it's just all in all, she's like the veteran leader of this team, one of the most popular players in the team. I do apologize again if the quality of the camera is not the greatest. If I'm literally, I don't know what's wrong with the lighting in this room. My laptop's not letting me change the camera settings. It's a bit of an owl nightmare. I'm in my parents' house at the minute, and this is the best setup that I could find. I am sorry about that. But anyway, right now we're going to be talking about Temi Fagbenle, and this is what I'm talking about. And by the way, I do have some sympathy for Temi because I had the exact same reaction, but also this is on Nike. So Temi Fagbenle was not happy. And this is the winning isn't for everyone. And this is the quote that really bothered a lot of people. Look, I think it bothered every player that wasn't American as well. Every 4 years, teams come from around the world to compete for second place. When the reality was that there is no team that has ever come close to the Team USA. And it's probably a bad time to do it when it was the toughest Olympics in history. It was without question the toughest Olympics in history. Look, the men scraped the win. The women scraped the win. And that's not necessarily, well, the women's team should not have been close. They were 100 times better. It wasn't even a debate between them and France. But at the same time, it's when we're looking at, say, the men's team, it's just the standard of competition is much better. The standard of competition is just in general much, much better than it ever has been. But this is what Temi said. I'm baffled as to why bragging like this is being celebrated. Doesn't matter if it's true. We've all seen the US dominate for the past however many decades. It doesn't matter if it's true. We've all seen them dominate past however many decades. This is in poor taste. And yeah, I agree. I think this whole marketing campaign from Nike is in poor taste. They did it with the tennis player as well. And the worst part is that they did this whole thing, winning isn't for everyone, but it's winning an Olympic medal is winning. But at the same time, it's in poor taste, and it's just poor timing. And it is, I think that it's full. I tweeted out and everybody killed me on Twitter, and everyone being like, "Oh, you took it down because you were tired of being cooked." No, I stand by the point. But my tweet was basically referencing, I basically called out USA Basketball. When no, USA Basketball didn't do that. And heck, USA Basketball, there's a difference between hyping up your team and putting down others. And I think that's what Temi was saying. Temi's saying, it is in poor taste. Celebrating your team, and there's nobody that necessarily said USA were not even necessarily said USA were going to lose. Everyone said about the women's team that USA were making it much harder on themselves for bringing in a weakened team. And in the men's side, no, anyone who bet against the Avengers was crazy. But I always said, I think teams always have a puncher's chance against America in the men's. And we're now seeing in the women's that teams do have a puncher's chance against them. They're probably not going to beat them. That 60-game win streak for the women's, they're going to lose eventually. This isn't say 2000 or 2004 where you're they're not going to lose for however long. They're going to lose eventually because the world hasn't caught up. And this is what I kind of don't necessarily understand is people saying the world is caught up. And I think this is what we are seeing is that the high-end talent, the generational players, the way AAU ball has been, it's producing less generational players, but it's also producing more really good players. So the world hasn't really caught up. If you look at talent, USA could send their E team. USA could genuinely send their fifth team, and it would still have more talent than around the world. But the difference is that the most talented player on the court in a lot of games may not be from the United States. That happened in the Olympics. I think LeBron and Steph were the two best players on the floor in the final. Jokic was the best player on the floor in the semis. And if you're saying, Jokic shot 7 of 17, it's not about scoring. Not all about scoring. He freed up his teammates for open shots the whole game. The only issue was that the second, third, and fourth best players and fifth best players were all American. Embiid hooped. But I actually kind of get it, because if you know what this campaign was, I think it's more so an issue with Nike, and it's Nike doing what it takes to do to sell. And I think it is one of those things where it's look, you will sell more in America, by making sure that this American by going into the American superiority, which in a situation where it's completely justified when USA have won 8 gold medals in a row. But I do think that this is an ad that was released with the expectation of USA blitzing the Olympics, with the expectation of everything being a dominant. But to release this the second they won by a foot on the line, it does leave a poor taste, and especially initial reactions. Like, you could just imagine people watching this game, people from France watching this game, people from England watching this game, thinking, oh my God, this America team is mortal. Not that they're not the best, but oh my God, maybe they can be beaten. They're mortal. And then seeing this winning isn't for everybody, talking down on their opponents. Oh, they're only just competing for second place. No one has a chance against us. It does come off in bad taste. It does. It's not a good look. It doesn't look great, whether it's true or not that their dominance, especially when their dominance is not as pronounced now as it used to be. In isolation, it doesn't look good. But when you see Nike have done that campaign with all their athletes, whether they're American or not, even like the tennis player that won, when she's like not a dominant tennis player at all, like she only, she beat the world number 1 on the way, but it was the first time ever beating her. So yeah, I think all in all, the marketing campaign, it's a Nike marketing campaign, but especially the timing, releasing the trailer, and with this specific quote, the second they won by a foot on the line. I'm sorry, France were competing to win, and everybody saw that. France were this close to getting into overtime. France were a couple of plays. Heck, Maureen Johannes, to put them up 7 in the fourth quarter, got smacked in the face on a layup. Not saying the referees changed the game. I don't think they did. They didn't cost them both ways. But there were individual plays throughout that game where France could win. So I think in isolation, this quote, this whole thing looks like it's diminished the effort that France put in. And while also not necessarily even giving USA as much credit as it should have taken in the men's and the women's. Like, it's not a formality that you win because you're USA. You won because you played a hell of an Olympics in both. Maybe not so much in the women's. They really did underperform. But in the men's, like I said it before the Olympics, you got to give credit where credit's due. This is not a formality. If USA win, they'll have to earn it, and they earned it. And in fairness to the women's, the likes of, I thought Kelsey Plum stepped up big time at the end. Stewie was really good, and man, Aja Wilson won the it. So anyway, yeah, that is the video. Let me know what you guys think, because this is something that obviously it's going to look very different if you are from not America, like myself, especially if you're involved in basketball and not American, like a Temi Fagbenle, because there is that, like, not natural bias, but there is that, like, just like, for example, you see a Dennis Schroeder talking about basketball, being like, well, the basketball is better in Europe. The way they play, it's just real basketball. That's the way, obviously, they're being taught. And it's the same with the Americans, most American people being taught that basketball outside America isn't anywhere near as good. When the reality is that the best country in the world for basketball is America. It always will be. But I think we're seeing more and more and more now that we're seeing great players come through. We're seeing great players worldwide. And while America are always going to be the favorites, I think we're now going to be at the stage where, whether it's the men's or the women's, not that they're never going to be not going to be favorites in every single game they play, in every single Olympics, or in every single World Cup, but that it's not going to be, the sky is not falling if they lose, like in 2004. If they lose a game, it's not the end of the world. They're probably going to win them all, but they're not going to lose. They're not going to, which is, again, not the biggest deal in the world because of how good the talent is worldwide.